understand that guys like this are just simply doing it, not because they actually believe it, or maybe he did believe it at that point and doesn't anymore. They're doing it because they're expected to. They're doing it because they want to show that they're a good person. One of the funniest things I saw, by the way, going back to like narratives, rhetoric, and how silly all of this stuff is, and I have to point this out, is yet another fellow former friend of mine who turned evil. Okay, XQC. Here it is. I saw his community is eating him alive because, you know, he was a relatively progressive individual back in the day, and he developed a huge community of somewhat progressive juicers, right? Maybe they hate me, and that's fine. But ultimately, still, they are, you know, there are a lot of progressive people here in his community, and they're all mad. And hey, hello, XQC fan, hello, post, hashtag bring this back. Okay, this person doesn't even follow me, by the way. This is like a real XQC fan. His entire account is dedicated to XQC. He's a juicer, right? He's stuck through his juicer through thick and thin, even with the gambling pivot, even with the Aiden Ross arc, and he's still like, please, dude, bring this XQC back. To which, and this is a tweet I'm going to read to you because back then, this is a very narrow focus that I will explain to you about how so many people signal what their politics are, especially people in our space. Okay, people in the space of Twitch, people on YouTube. If you recall, if you're old enough, Black Lives Matter did not start under the Trump administration. It reached its apex point under the Trump administration, but it did not start under the Trump administration. Black Lives Matter started with, I believe, Ferguson, and maybe even you could point to George Zimmerman as well. Initially, in the aftermath of nope, not 2000, and I think it started all the way back in 2014. It started under Barack Obama. Okay, it started under the Barack Obama administration. Liberals at the time actually were incredibly anti-BLM. Why do I know this? One, because I'm old, and two, because I was in support of Trayvon Martin. Ferguson and Trayvon Martin. I was, of course, in support of the movement against police brutality, specifically targeting black communities back then. And I would write a lot about this issue. I would write a lot about this asymmetry in using the same methodology and the same language that I use right now, because unfortunately, the systems of cruelty do not change. If anything, they get worse and they calcify, they harden. Okay. At the time, many prominent liberals, Obama included, while simultaneously saying Trayvon Zimmerman could have been my son, would then also call, after Ferguson, the Black Lives Matter movement thugs. Okay. That's what he said. He said these were thugs. Or I believe, I don't know if he used the word thug or if he used the word uppity. It's like one of those racialized terms that he used. Okay. Also at the same time, you had Jim Comey, who was the FBI director at the time, when people were pushing for body cameras to be given out. You had the likes of FBI Director Jim Comey claiming that the body camera footage is making police brutality worse. Oh, he used the term thug. Did I say Trayvon Zimmerman? Oh, Trayvon Martin. I'm so sorry for saying Trayvon Zimmerman. George Zimmerman was the white supremacist psychopathic killer of Trayvon Martin. Barack Obama used the term thug. RBG used the term uppity. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, something along those lines. Anyway, these are racialized terms. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because only after the wave of anti-Trump protests and the wave of liberal resistance after Trump's victory and Trump putting the crosshairs on Colin Kaepernick and also the Black Lives Matter movement, did liberals actually get on board with this? The No Kings movement that is existing right now, that's going to happen on Saturday, or the 501 movement. Like, these are liberal movements, right? They're massive. They're massive forms of protest, but they're ultimately liberal. They don't have that same radical element. They don't fully understand why they're protesting. They just like hate Trump, right? Or they hate like some aspects of Trump's governance, but not all. But only after Donald Trump stood in opposition to BLM did liberals actually universally condemn Donald Trump, universally condemn all lives matter style narratives, and get on board with Black Lives Matter? Now, in the aftermath of that, of course, Black Lives Matter became commodified. You had Walmart throwing up the black fist while simultaneously still funding their local police unions and things of that nature, you know. It became an aesthetic. It created a permission structure where you were expected as a human being with, you know, an observable conscience, you had to say you're pro BLM, you're pro Black Lives Matter. This is a great example of people who were not even thinking twice about openly stating their support. June 8th, 2020. XQC tweets, in all caps, "It is a shame it has to even be stated, but of course, hashtag Black Lives Matter. We love you. Keep fighting the good fight so everyone understands this. I want everyone to feel safe, respected, and have all the same opportunities to do great." To which XQC himself didn't realize he had tweeted this and said, "The replies on this really give good insight on how much fact-checking is being done on X these days. Most of the replies are saying he changed. LMFAO. Literally not a single person even verified if the tweet was real. Cringe. I guess he was right, because he was one of the people who didn't even verify that the tweet was real. And then he realized it was real. He said, wait, the tweet is real. Ah, ha, 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 ha. I'm not even going to delete the main reply. That's just too good." The most embarrassing thing. Yeah, when you have no beliefs and you're just grifting along with the permission structure, this is what happens. When you, like, because this take in and of itself is so stupid. It's like, there's no way I would have defended black people in 2020. Like, that's your argument now? That's who you've become? That's so stupid, dude. What is a permission structure? I'll explain. The permission structure is, before 2021, if you were to say correctly that Israel is an apartheid state, people will say you're anti-Semitic. You'd get shunned. Okay? You'd get shut out from mainstream opportunities, things of that nature. Okay? I still did, regardless, because it's the truth. But now, if you say that in 2025, nobody thinks it's inappropriate to say. Same thing with Israel doing a genocide. In the aftermath of October 7, if you were to say a couple months into Israel's genocidal campaign, if you were to say Israel's doing a genocide, people would say, oh, you're anti-Semitic. Now, most people understand that Israel is doing a genocide, because as time moves on and as more people recognize, as more protests happen, as more people recognize the depravity of the situation, okay, there is more people exhibit comfort to be able to say what they truly mean, or when it reaches a boiling point, they are expected to say the quote-unquote right things. Understand that guys like this are just simply doing it, not because they actually believe it, or maybe he did believe it at that point and doesn't anymore. But in most circumstances, they're doing it because they're expected to. They're doing it because they want to show that they're a good person, okay? That's it. They will never get there until it reaches a boiling point. For some, there are, for some in even this community, like in this space that we're in, they are fearful of repercussions. They are fearful of not being able to like defend their position and maybe not articulate their position well enough. And therefore they are apprehensive at first to say like, yeah, I think what ICE is doing is up. They might believe it, but they won't say it. For others, they are fearful of the repercussions of like coming out against a domineering force in politics in this space that we occupy, like the XQCs and the Asmengolds of the world, where they don't want to say something then and offend the sensibilities of Asmongold and basically create this unimaginable wrath for themselves, because no one is able to deal with the sequence of the endless torrent of harassment. So then they just stay quiet. And what I think a lot of those people don't realize, a lot of those people that are not like inherently political people, right? Or they're not like political commentators or whatever. What those content creators don't realize is that like, if you don't build a permission structure to say, no, what the administration is doing is wrong and people that are defending it are also wrong. If you don't do that, then the only voices that you hear are going to be voices like Asmongold and his community. And it creates a permission structure for right-wing attitudes to fester, okay? And that's what happened since the Trump administration's victory. a lot of these guys that are content creators themselves basically move along with clout. The tech tones of the world, the Asmongols of the world, the more domineering a force that they become, the more other content creators that are in the periphery look at that and go, I guess this is like, I guess I have to be kind of right wing. Or if I'm not, I'm just going to shut the up. The reason why I'm narrowing in on this incredibly specific, Twitch streamer orbit is because the exact same structure occurs in mainstream institutions as well. The exact same cultural shift occurs, and that's how you arrive at the entire media apparatus basically only framing immigrants from an incredibly right-wing perspective. What is happening? Why does it keep effing, dude? There is no issues on my end. There are no issues on my end at all. It's got to be on the Twitch side. If you constantly look at this stuff and actually allow the convictions of the right and the carefully crafted, domineering narratives of the right to take over, and also then turn around and capitulate the right-wing framing in an effort to find the reasonable middle ground there, instead of trying to push the middle ground to your side, you will always lose. This is at the heart of liberalism. This is the biggest problem with the Democratic Party. If there's one thing that I get actively angry about with regular frequency, the most common point of resentment from my end towards the Democratic Party is this. Liberals constantly allow the Republicans to flood the market with insane takes, with no counterbalance, with no counter narratives, with no countermeasures whatsoever. And then that discourse moves people into adopting reactionary frameworks, even if they don't recognize how that right-wing that right-wing legislative agenda, when it bears itself out, is going to look horrible when it's going to come to their neighborhood. Only until it comes to their neighborhood only after it comes to their neighborhood do they recognize that this is actually cruel and unusual. You in this community realize this. You have to realize this. If you're a liberal and you're watching me right now, you have to recognize this. Move people to your side in the same way that Republicans actively are trying to basically pull people to their side by lying. They lie all the time. You don't even have to lie. You can just say the truth. Stop compromising to right-wingers. Stop compromising to right-wing frameworks. Stop fantasizing about this weird middle-of-the-road people, okay, that exists out there in the periphery. They're in the ether. They're the Midwesterners that just want reasonable tax policy and a strong border patrol or whatever okay? Make the argument to them that a lot of these narratives are just completely made up. They are hysterics born about the fantasies of racists. What is this? Your wife is on the line. 3. Right-wing agenda in a nutshell. Deregulate the rich, criminalize the vulnerable, politicize education, and weaponize faith. Exactly. They don't listen? Yes, they will. If they didn't listen, I wouldn't have almost 50,000 people in here right now. What are you talking about? When I started broadcasting on Twitch, I had 35 people watching me. Look at how large this community is. We go out there to the protests. Half the goddamn protesters are wearing Hasanabi merch. Half the goddamn protesters are coming up and being like, yo, I'm here because you really radicalized me. Okay? Enough. Stop leaning into nihilism. Stop succumbing to nihilism. Maintain faith. Maintain revolutionary optimism. Okay? Have a little bit more faith in your fellow man. Okay? I'm going to shake you. Yes. There are so many people in your immediate vicinity that you could convince. Okay? And at a time of unprecedented violent rhetoric and unprecedented violent acts coming from the Republican Party, this is your opportunity to explain to people that they're doing this because they don't want to give you health care. They're doing this because they don't want to fix your material conditions. They don't want to fix your living standards. As a matter of fact, they want to continue removing certain things that you actually take for granted at this point.